All right, it is December of 2025. It means people are jumping into all the races for the midterm. So let's talk about it with one of the candidates going against an incumbent of her own party. We'll see what she's got to say on that. You're listening to
The New England Take.
So the New England Take. I'm your host, AJ Kierstead, newenglandtake.com to check out more from the show. That is a Substack. If you want the show via email, that's the way to do it. If you feel like throwing me a couple bucks, why not? Thank you to WKXL for picking up the show Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. in Concord and Manchester, nhtalkradio.com. And thank you to the Granite Grok, granitegrok.com, for sharing the show out every Saturday for all my miscellaneous conversations I have on the show with I don't know. I don't know if it's productive politically, but it's fun. We're going to keep doing it. And a big thank you to Concord TV for also picking up the show now. New over there, AJ at newenglandtake.com if you want to reach out to the show and tell me what I got wrong. I'm sure there's plenty in the mix. All right. Excited to be joined today by New Hampshire Representative Paige Beauchemin, who is running for Congress. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, AJ. I'm very excited to be here.
All right, so this race was extensively talked about on the show. I made no bones about it when it came to my personal opinions of Maggie Goodlander. I'm personally kind of libertarian conservative guy, so Lily, it was a pick. It was a pick I agreed with politically in many things. Logistically, when it came to the candidate actually getting voted in, obviously didn't play out, but this is how it goes in New Hampshire. Every election is kind of a wild card. So I mean, what's your super short elevator pitch? Why are you jumping in the race against an incumbent of your own party?
Sure. So right now, we know the Democrats have about a 30% satisfaction rate. And there are a lot of Dems who are looking for something different. What I know is that only 2% of Congress are working class people. So I think that the ruling class, the millionaires, hey, we should all be represented, and they already have very good representation. So the pitch is I'm running because I think that the working class deserves a working person who knows what their life is like, who can fight for them.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense for sure. Especially, I mean, with the kind of part. I feel like I want to get your take on this. I mean, I feel like it really plays into the nature of the current Democratic Party. Is you have the more I would just listening to you talk about the issues, lean more progressive on the Democratic Party side versus the more establishment. I mean, that was the whole swamp monster thing when you're talking about the establishment Democrats pushing in their candidates, whether you're talking Maggie Goodlander, whether you're talking about what's going on in Maine when it comes to Janet Mills getting pushed in over with Graham Plattner being on the other side over there. It's obviously a totally different race. It's for Senate. But I mean, what's your feel on the makeup of the Democratic Party right now, where you do have this kind of this back and forth between these two branches? At least as someone who's not a Democrat looking at it, it's how it looks.
That's how it feels from the inside. There's absolutely a schism, and what I'll say is it's happening everywhere. Like you just named off like a ton, just like right off the cuff. But every seat that is up for reelection in 2026 that I'm aware of, and the federal level and the governor, we have a non-establishment candidate on the Dem side. So that's happening at every single seat. Now, granted, I'm the only one running against an incumbent, but we're still seeing that we're running non-establishment folks. I have been really looking around. This is happening all over the country. Plattner is great. I think he has a great platform. I think we're hearing about him because we know about Janet Mills, but people like him and people like me are running all around the country. And I think there's a lot of people that have previously been pulled along to vote for Dems who they didn't necessarily support. Personally, I was a Bernie guy. I plugged my nose to vote for Hillary Clinton. I did not want to vote for her at all. I didn't want to vote for Biden, and I didn't want to vote for Kamala. But for a lot of the issues, that was the better choice for me. But I'm still deeply unhappy with it. And what I think that we can look at is honestly, regardless of party, the government has failed us working people. Whatever they've been doing, whatever concessions and negotiations and compromises they've been making, it didn't work on either side. And so I can't just stand by blindly and continue to say, "Oh, I'm going to put my faith in these folks." And when you really start looking at it, I believe the difference is that there is a ruling class and there's a working class. And it doesn't matter, again, what side of the aisle, ruling class wants to stay ruling class. And I think that a lot of Democrats are waking up to that, or they've been feeling that way, like me, for over a decade, and we're finally just sick of it. And so, there's been so much change happening this year. And obviously, you know what end I'm on. I am very unhappy with things. But when you really get down to it, costs are high. I mean, my grocery bills for three kids and a husband and me have gone through the roof, right? People can't afford housing. There's all these things happening, and I don't really see our leaders addressing them. And I think the reason is because people who have money, people, and I'm not talking about $100,000, I'm talking about people who are ultra wealthy, or even the millionaires who are in our state at this level. Why would they want to do things that are going to decrease their own wealth? They're not going to. And so I really think the only way to get real change for real people who actually need it is that if the people who are there, who are working for it, A, have experienced it, and or have family and friends that have experienced it in their own life. And if it doesn't work out, if they don't get what they're fighting for, it's actually going to personally affect them at that moment, right? And that is how it would be if I was in Congress. That's not how it is right now for any of us with any of our federal delegation. And I don't even know if I answered your question. I kind of went off there, but I do that. But I think it explains for me right now, the Dems are not the party I want them to be. They haven't been for a long time. I think that we can reshape the Democratic Party to be what the majority of us want it to be. And I think the way we do that is getting back to the working class and like regular everyday issues that almost everybody is having a problem with.
Yeah, I see it on the Republican side too, where it's this. Ultimately, it's what it came down to. A lot of the MAGA movement's success is it was speaking to the voices of people that were not happy with the situation. It's the reason why I keep harping on it, because I got the feeling people don't understand it. Many Trump voters voted for Obama. This is a tremendous thing that happened at the presidential level. Pragmatic. A versus B vote is going to mean you got to make a choice here. And if you got the one guy who's saying hope and change, or hey, we're going to make things better here one way or another, that's key. And the Democrats, I feel like, have really had this. Republicans also in a different way, obviously, but Democrats really have this fundamental issue where they preach a lot of things, like a lot of the progressive platform. When you hear your Bernie Sanders and such, are the things all the candidates try ultimately run on, and then they don't do it for whatever reason, or they kind of beat around the bush enough to just get in just enough. I mean, there's a lot of what Joe Biden did. It was a lot of that stuff. He was harping on and on during the campaign in his first 100 days in office. So we are going to make the movement. We're going to start doing all these things. We're gonna make Bernie and co happy, and then no, it didn't happen. I mean, what do you feel like is the missing piece to actually have these progressive policies go in place? Like, even as someone who disagrees with them for the most part, I understand the politically you got to make it work. So how do you do that?
Okay, a couple things. First of all, I do think that being an actual working person from like a low income family, my origins are very, very humble, grew up either unhoused or in a trailer park, moving around all the time. I think that when you come from that start, there is inherently something different about where you'll end up. So I don't, For me, that's obvious. Like, I don't think that can be argued. Your experiences are going to dictate who you are and how you engage in certain situations. So there's that. I think that a lot of the folks, the social class that they're in there right now, are very hyper focused on being polite, not hurting feelings, and not really pushing or making waves. And honestly, we've got a lot of cowards in Congress. So I think a part of it is just that people haven't been fighting hard enough. That really is what it is. The other thing is that I don't think these progressive policies have really had a chance. We really haven't given them a chance. And I'm hoping that with all of the movement I'm seeing this year, I think the progressive policies have not moved anywhere because, like, who's progressive in Washington? Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and AOC. You know, you can't make a lot of movement when there's 3 to 10 of you who are trying to do this. I'm hoping that we see a significant wave of people, not even, it's not even progressive. The people that I'm talking to are anti-establishment. We're all talking about the same things. We're sick of the division. We just want people to have housing and food and healthcare. And I do think that when you're talking about those kinds of things that are harder for people to say no to, right? You can have your ideas about all the culture wars, trans folks, immigration, all of these things, DEI. We can fight about those, but nobody's going to fight about the fact that we all need food. We need food, we need housing, we need healthcare, right? We all need that. And I think that when people start hearing what the policies actually are and what they could actually give us, and that it could be more efficient and it could be higher quality and our lives could be easier and more fulfilling, and we could still be working hard, but we wouldn't have to scramble and hustle like we are. I feel like that's an appealing message. And I think that if you can communicate it and then you get the public support, I do believe politicians will be swayed by public support. And if we can show them, if we can get enough movement and show the politicians that these are the policies that people want, I'm hoping that makes a difference. But let's be honest, we have to get the money out of politics. I mean, the other reason that these people are not fighting for us is because they're getting paid not to. I mean, they're all being paid at the highest levels. A lot of our politicians are corrupt and they don't want things to change because they are getting paid to make sure they stay exactly the same. And it's exactly like you said, we've been given just enough for us to be able to squeak by and not be so mad that we revolt. They've given us just enough to not get mad enough. But right now everything's falling and people are getting to that point.
Yeah, I mean, you. Thank you for actually having a small issues page. It was one of the biggest issues as someone who's in the media side of things. You have an issues page for a congressional candidate, and it's
Oh,
50 pages long, and it's esoteric, and we want this and that. We're gonna do it maybe by doing this, but maybe we're gonna do it this other ways. It's a nice bulleted list. I appreciate it. Thank you. One of the things you do have on there is Citizens United, which obviously I think it's a lot of both sides of the aisle ultimately come down to that. I've spoken about that extensively. A quick reminder, once again, there's the Hillary Clinton campaign there, guys. If you want to look into Citizens United there, that's how we ended up with having it be the corporate money it currently is with the PAC system, is because of, once again, the corruption of the Democratic Party. We both would agree on that. But what are some specific to election reform or just money in election reform? What sort of specifics do you have on that?
sure. So certainly ending Citizens United. I think there should be better limits on, I mean, I think there should be limits on how much money is allowed to be used in a campaign overall. I mean, I don't know if there are some countries where there are extreme limits, right? It's a very small amount. You don't get these years of campaigning. I think we need to simplify things. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I'm blanking here. Absolutely, we should not be taking dark corporate money. There should be limits. One thing that really bothers me about it is how inaccessible it is for working class people. I mean, it's nearly impossible. And so, I learned this recently, looking a little bit at Mamdani's campaign. I don't know how familiar you are with like the matching that they do there. But the city and I don't know all the workings of the campaign, but they are matched by the money that they fundraise. And so that gives people who are not as able to raise as much a leg up because then they are able to generate that income that will make it possible. So the way one of the things that I'm doing right now is the reason that I'm able to run is because there's a new FEC law that came out last year. It's been evolving over the last like 5 or 6 years. But whereas it used to be, if you use any amount of campaign funds for anything personal, that's a big scandal. They now allow you to draw a salary from your campaign funds. If you are a non-incumbent congressional candidate, you can draw a salary.
Interesting.
Now, there are limits on it. It's either half of what the salary would be if you win. It's either half of that or it is the average of your last 5 years of income, whichever is less. And then you still have to raise the funds, which I have to tell you, I did this and I was like, oh, this is great. I'll get paid. I can be a working person that can run. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's hard to raise money. And that's still hard. But I guess what I would say is we have to do more things like that. We have to make it more possible for not only like the huge amount of money out, but we also have to start on the other end and just making it simply possible. So I would like to see things like matching or limiting the amount of money that can be used in a campaign. I think those would be really effective. But I think ending Citizens United is one of the best ways that we can get started with that, with getting the money out.
Have you heard any specific like attempts at making law that will, well, because I mean ultimately that's what's going to, I feel like a lot of people don't even necessarily know Citizens United was a Supreme Court case. It's not law, so there's a lot of political stuff around it. It's not a law that's got to be repealed. It's literally a law will have to be made to make this happen because that's the only way it can bypass the Supreme Court precedent. Have you heard much about specific laws that have been attempted to resolve this? Like, is there anyone in DC that's actually trying to make something happen with it?
I'm not familiar. I'm not. Do you know of any?
I wish I did. I don't care what part of the aisle they're on. I'm going to support it.
I feel like you hear people talking about it.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. And I am going to say, AJ, here's another thing that I think is really important when we're talking about working people running, right? I am first gen college. I don't have a political family. I have not been like groomed my whole life to get into this world and know every single piece of everything. I'm a nurse. I can talk to you about maternal health all day. I can talk about mental health. I can talk about patients and things that get in the way of them getting healthy. I understand the system and I've been a state rep and I'm learning a lot. But another thing that I know is unlike other politicians, I'm not going to BS and pretend that I know something when I don't. And campaign finance and Citizens United, those are newer things to me. But what I do have is I have an amazing team of college students. I've got 25 college students volunteering for my campaign. Through a very specific fellowship program. And what I'm getting at is they're all doing policy research. If I have a question or there's something I don't know, I'm like, okay, let's look into this. And then it helps me figure that out. So, I'm going to take this question and say, that makes a lot of sense. What else besides Citizens United? Who is doing that? So I will admit and say, hey, I don't know the answer right now, but I'm going to get back to it.
That's great. And that's something I think a lot of people need to realize, like, oh, I'm just going to start a campaign. Like, staff is how it works. Like, we talk a lot about the finances and the money directly, but the whole ecosystem behind the campaign is just as important. If you don't have a solid state director or chief of staff who's assisting with the back end of the campaign, the vendors and such is something that's constantly brought up with when you're talking about the party level with the state parties and obviously the federal parties too level. But it's a tremendous end of how it works. When you end up in Congress, it comes down to the staffers that are behind the scenes. They're the ones that are writing the law and doing all the research. You're kind of the figurehead.
Yeah, they are. But I think, that is, I will say this. I tell people there are two parts of being a legislator, and obviously making laws is the primary. But especially in a year, and of course, I'm a Dem in New Hampshire, and the Republicans have a huge majority. And we know, for Dems, we're in a red administration right now, federally. I think that if you are not going to make it very far on the laws for these kinds of reasons, your other job is to be a friggin' leader and to help guide people and to be able to inspire them and lead them. And I think that's a really important skill set for a leader to have. And there can be people who are really, really good at policy, but they might not really be able to inspire and lead people. And so I think it's important. I've worked in corporate America a little bit. I did some health tech building like health programs. And one thing that I learned is it's important. The best leader is somebody who knows what they don't know, but knows how to find the answer and can manage the people to get the right answer. And I think that is something that I think I have an advantage with. I really know how to do that. I will tell you, because this is really fun. The way that I got all these students is there is this fellowship called Let Us Lead. And it's based out of some of the Dems, or excuse me, some of the students who go to Dartmouth. And they give college students high level strategic experience on campaigns in exchange for their volunteering for it. So usually at that age, all they get to do is knock doors or make phone calls. I've got people learning how to do high level, like finance strategy, fundraising strategy, social media strategy. They're all getting this high level experience so that when they leave, they're going to be able to get better jobs in campaigns and be more successful. So this campaign, one of the other ways that I'm thinking about it is, yeah, do I want establishment Dem votes? Sure, absolutely I do. But they're going to be harder to change even than some Republicans, right? Because what I'm talking about is things that matter to working people on both sides. And the other group of people, besides working people overall, are, I would say, the people under 30. A lot of them are disillusioned. They feel hopeless. They feel like they're never going to have a family. They're never going to buy a house. They're either super pissed or they're disengaged or they're hopeless. And, for me, having such a young team is a testament and a commitment, and also the way to really address those young people, because I think that they're really important.
All right. I'd love to connect for that organization if you have your people send me, because I'd love to look into that a little more, because that's great. Because we talk about often the education side, make sure people are actually ready to enter the field after whatever crazy expensive education they're getting. That's a great
Yes.
example. So many people go right from college and into politics and policy and things like that. So that's great. But all right, we got like 5 minutes left to actually dive into a. Oh, go ahead.
Go for it. No, I just
Oh,
said
yeah.
sorry not so much. Go ahead. Give me the
Yeah,
hard.
I want to at least, because it's your background as a nurse, I want to brief the last bit section here talk specifically about healthcare. So, by what I heard of you previously talking about and some of the stuff it's on your site with regards to it, a lot of it is centered around payers. So that's the insurers or the federal government or the state government that's paying for it specifically. Ultimately, they're footing the bill for whatever is being charged to them quite often. It's obviously a larger equation with everything that goes into it. How are you looking to address affordability of healthcare on the healthcare side? Because I get the feeling a lot of people just say, oh, we just need to have, as part of your platform, a single payer is something that should be considered. But that doesn't necessarily fix the cost of the healthcare itself.
Well, I guess we're spending right now. I mean, that's a part, you're right. It's a part of the problem. I mean, fixing that isn't going to solve the high prices of pharmaceuticals. But if we look at why the healthcare costs are so much, one could argue that that because systems are inefficient, that they're charging more for things. So, as an example, the Medicare system, the administrative cost for the Medicare system is 2% of all their, right. 2% of their costs that they put out, right, that it costs them, goes to administrative costs, right. Now, on the other side, when you're looking at private insurance, 15% of their costs are administrative. So when we're looking at that, you have to look at the efficiency of the program as well. Um, I'm not, I'm not, I am not convinced that the healthcare costs are where they should be anyway, right? I don't know that they have to be where they are. So I think that when we create a more efficient system and when we change to the single payer system, that 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 piece, yes, has to be addressed with it. But I do think it gets worked out when the system changes, when the funding is different. Because right now they're so squeezed by the low reimbursement rates that they're getting from the health insurance companies. They're trying to make up, they have to make up costs in other areas as well. So
Well, I mean, I fundamentally think there's a lot more to it than the 2% picture. I mean, Medicare Advantage is kind of a terrible example, but as an example, there's a lot of the carriers that part of the reason why Medicare Advantage is crashing and burning is because it's costing more than what the federal government said that they could charge for these plans. So if a carrier is paying 103% of whatever money they're taking in, that's a loss. Like their administrative fee might be 2%, but that doesn't mean it's buoyant. It's able to continue.
this is true. But when we also look at having healthcare available to everybody sooner, we absolutely know that healthcare costs go down. And the reason they do is because when you engage in prevention, overall costs will go down, right? So if you have somebody who can't afford to go, they can't afford their copay, they don't have health insurance, and they have a toothache, they're going to wait and wait and wait and wait. And then they go to the ER when they have an abscess in their mouth, right? And that costs a lot more. If we get somebody when they're pre-diabetic and we can help them to get healthier, then they don't become diabetic. And down the road, they don't have all the other problems that go with that. Right now, our current system does not incentivize prevention.
But it's
It
free. But it's free, the prevention, because it's a cover. It's like one of the few good things in the Affordable Care Act is it did resolve that.
resolved what?
Your annual visits are free for starters. Like you can go to your doctor every single year at no charge.
Oh, yeah, but there's so many more things that need to be taken care of that come up. Like when things come up, people wait until further down the line of the illness until it has progressed. So, like, and as an example, right now, you can't talk about anything else. I went to go to my PCP for my annual exam, and they hand you a piece of paper that says all we can do is check your basic stuff. We cannot talk about any chronic conditions you have. We can't talk about anything else. So anything that is not that basic, basically, if you're healthy, you're okay. But if you have anything wrong, if you don't have money for a copay, if you don't have money for the treatment, then you're not doing that.
I'd say there's a lot more with the providers that maybe with their billing because of maybe the relationship with the payers is a bit of an issue. That's we don't have time. We could probably talk for 3 hours specifically on this.
I know, I'm sorry. I know. I'll come back and we can
Yeah,
talk.
I'll definitely have you back on to talk specific because I'd really like to dive into the specifics of the healthcare side because I think that's
Yes.
really important. We always talk about so many of the issues on the payer side. That really eats up so much of the air in the room. But I think there's a lot of stuff on the provider side we should definitely talk about. And if you've got other people that especially that you work with in Concord
Yeah,
on any of this, I'd love to have you on to have a full conversation,
I
even
would love to
beyond
do that.
30
Yeah.
minutes. All
Yeah.
right. All right, we're about out of time right now, so we got closing here. Paige Beauchemin, she's a representative in New Hampshire out of Nashua. She is running for Congress against incumbent Maggie Goodlander. I really appreciate you joining the show and having this conversation. We got a lot of really good stuff in there. And where should people go if they want to learn more about your campaign?
Oh yeah, great. They can go to PAIGE, Page, FORNH. So pagefornewhampshire.com. Easy to find me. And we'll have lots more coming out on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, usually at Page for NH.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to check out her platform, see what she's got going on over there. Big thank you to WKXL for picking up the show. Next up over there is Facing the Future, presented by the Concord Coalition. Thanks to thegranitegrok.com for sharing the show, and newenglandtake.com to get more from me. Like and subscribe if you're checking out the show online, and we'll talk to you soon.